Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to our mindfulness practice. First, of course, I want to say sorry for missing the Tuesday morning event. It was a scheduling error, and I think that I had some committee meeting the night before that I knew was going to run late, and I thought that I had scheduled something. I thought I had scheduled it yesterday, in fact, and so what I've really discovered as well is this error is a good opportunity for learning, of course, and just to see what my thought process was like after that happened. And I thought it was a great opportunity to use it for self-forgiveness and just figuring out what happens to us when something doesn't go according to plan. So I really thought, well, this is an opportunity for me to see what happens for me and what goes on. So a lot of what happened was I fast forwarded to this moment when I would be in front of you talking to you again. And I found that that happened sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. Often I would be here in this moment without my intention of being here. I was automatically fast forwarding to this moment. And I found that this was it was challenging, right? What were some of the things coming up? I've done probably 600 live events, and I've never missed a single one that I've scheduled, right? I used to schedule my live events daily, so because they were scheduled daily in the past, it's harder for me to do the schedule properly, right? Like, these are the kind of thoughts that were going through my mind. And one other thing I'll say is Jean's caught me a few times scheduling the event incorrectly. Like, would schedule the event at an odd hour accidentally, or would it be at like 5:10 p.m. instead of a.m.? And this is actually something I know about myself. Over the summer, in fact, my partner asked me to schedule a flight for us, and I scheduled the correct day, like number day, right? Like, let's say it was 19th of April, but I scheduled it in the wrong month and ended up having to pay a consequence for that. And so that showed up in this as well, right? So this is that you're not a good scheduling person, right? Like the kind of identifying a certain way that I am this, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this. This kind of stuff showing up. And I do think that sometimes that story we tell ourselves really reinforces that. I'm not a good scheduler, so maybe that gives me, it keeps me from being able to change that in the future. So what's the story we're telling ourselves about whatever it is that's going on. And the other thing too is the making excuses, and that's really what I found my mind doing a lot right in the beginning, was making excuses. Well, I didn't do it because I had that committee meeting, and I Tuesday and Thursday sound similar. They start with a T, or I don't know. I didn't actually do that one, but whatever, trying to figure out some reason why, right? And I find that the reason that most of the time that we come up with excuses, and we tell the excuses outwardly too. We don't just tell them to ourselves, we tell them to people around us. That story is more for us than it is for them. It's to say, well, I've got a good reason why I messed up this time, and here's why. It's because we're protecting our own identities. Because I am a competent person. We'll go through this in more detail in the days coming up. So I'm okay. I'm smart. I'm good at doing X, Y, Z. And we tell excuses to ourselves to try and defend that position we have about our identity, because, we know that it would be very uncomfortable to determine that, well, wait a minute, maybe I'm not as competent as I think I am. So that was really kind of step one, so going through a lot of excuses. Number two was okay. Like I recognize that I'm protected. So for me in my mindfulness practice, I recognize that protection of identity, and I thought, well, let's figure out what this is like. So let's discover in the body what this feels like. So one of the things that I felt was a kind of heaviness in my chest and in my abdomen, a like maybe a sinking feeling in my stomach. And I think that what this is for me is the way disappointment feels. And part of my part of my mindfulness practice, of course, is remembering that things are happening in the present, right? Remembering that that whatever it is that this event that I missed, and the 70 meditators that showed up, that expected to see me and meditate with me and listen to whatever what the opinions of strangers was the topic on Tuesday, that I've let all of these people down, right? And so this creates that feeling of disappointment, and the fact that it's over. I can see that it's over, right? Like I know that it's over. The time has passed. There's nothing that I can do to change the fact that I missed this event. However, my mind doesn't move on from that. And so I thought, this is a really good opportunity for me to figure out how long is my mind going to dwell in this setback. So I found that it was, I woke up around 6:50, right? I woke up, 5:50, so maybe 10 minutes after that event was scheduled to end. And I found that I continued thinking about it and continued having regrets about it until approximately 9:30. So I had probably a little over 3 hours where I found that my mind would continuously go back to that event and go forward to this moment. So it would do both of these. Go back to the regret of the event that I had messed up, and then it would come forward to the moment where I wanted to rectify the event in some way. So I thought this was a really interesting, really interesting kind of backwards and forwards in my mind going on. And whatever it is, not really staying present, and being aware that that being present was really challenging during that time. And I think that this is this is something that all of us have difficulty with. What's it like during meditation? Do you find that your mind is going forwards and backwards a lot? Do you find that it's difficult to stay present? For most of us, the answer is yes. That is challenging. And so, of course, it's going to be challenging to stay present outside of our time of meditation. And this is what meditation's about, is to train ourselves so that we can be present, so that in these times when we have a setback and our mind wants to go backwards in time and wants to go forwards in time, and it's doing it without our consent. And I think I really made it a point in that time to say, be present. Be present as best as you can. Don't go backwards. Don't go forwards without, mindlessly. Don't go back and forwards mindlessly. Do try and stay present, and then see what happens. See if you're able to stay present, and then be aware when the mind goes forward and backwards. And so I think this is a really useful. Frankly, I'm not happy that it happened. But at least that I get some kind of learning about it that I can share with you guys. And so if you've got any setback, that this is really something that I would encourage you to do, is to be mindful of the setback. Be mindful of what a big deal it seems to be. The kind of catastrophizing your mind does, the going backwards to the event, reliving the event, wishing that it hadn't happened, going forward to trying your best to have a conversation with the person that the setback is related to. And so be mindful of all of this happening. And then when you actually do want to plan what you're going to say in the future, you just be intentional about it. Like this is the time I'm setting aside to do it. Do your best not to let the mind automatically wander. And talk series about, why letting the addiction to thinking. I guess that's really what it comes down to. Addiction to thinking is something that I think a lot of us struggle with, especially with the kind of overstimulation we may experience these days. So being intentional and staying present as best we can. I will take a look at the chat. I see, Christina, you've got a question. I'll answer it at the end of the meditation. So I'll look at the I'm starting to wander through the chat, so I'm not going to do that. Let's go ahead and get into our practice today. So get into a comfortable seated posture. In fact, get into whatever posture seems comfortable for you today. If you want to lie down, if you want to sit up, just finding something that is going to support you in your practice today. So you can feel free to stretch out, move the head and shoulders around to try and bring a little bit of additional relaxation into the body. And seeing if you can begin to discover what it feels like to be breathing. So bringing a kind of curiosity as you explore your body and you see how your body breathes. And maybe you've explored the breath 1,000 times, or maybe you've explored the breath more than 1,000 times. Is it possible for you to bring that same kind of curiosity as when you first tried to discover your breath? Where do I feel the breath in the body? So as long as we're alive, the breath continues flowing. Observing this process of being alive. And taking note of the quality of the breath. Taking note of the length of the breath. Oftentimes when we pay attention to breath, we find that naturally the breath begins to elongate. So there's no need for you to control the breath. And then you may even question, am I controlling the breath or not? It's kind of this interesting little space between willfully breathing and letting the body breathe that we start to fall into as we observe the breath. And this sometimes is why the breath begins to naturally elongate. And partially because the body becomes more relaxed, or tends to become more relaxed, as we focus on this thing that's happening in the present moment only. Expanding as we breathe in, contracting as we breathe out. we still on the breath? If not, letting go of whatever thought has come into the mind and coming back, refocusing the attention on the breath. So I'm going to speak just a little bit, encourage you to try to keep your attention focused on the breath. What I found in these times of the mind going back, that sometimes there was a voice that would be like, I can't believe you messed up. How could you have messed up? And so this kind of voice that was more of a critic, not as helpful. And I found that during that time, as soon as I was aware of that voice, could I begin to practice self-compassion? And what did that feel like? And so I'd encourage you now to begin to shift your mind towards an open, compassionate feeling towards yourself, unconditional love towards yourself. Whatever setback has happened, has happened. So self-compassion isn't about saying that whatever happened has no consequences. Doesn't mean that we're letting ourselves slide, but it does mean shifting the attitude towards love. And what happens as we shift our attitude? So I found that this was a natural, even though it was challenging to do during that time, but a natural antidote to those self-destructive thoughts. And in fact, one of the things that showed up in those first few hours was, well, I'm not gonna broadcast again for a while. I want to retreat. I want to disappear. And so I found self-compassion really helped changing that attitude. So seeing if you can now shift your attention from the breath to unconditional love towards yourself. And if it's helpful, repeating a few phrases to foster loving kindness to yourself. May I be happy and contented. May I be happy and contented. May I be safe and protected, free from inner and outer harm. May I be safe and protected, free from inner and outer harm. May I be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. May I be healthy and whole to whatever degree that is possible for me. May I be peaceful. May I be at ease. May I be peaceful. May I be at ease. May I have the courage to love myself exactly as I am. May I have the courage to love myself exactly as I am. If you're waiting for the perfect you to arrive, before you start loving yourself, you're going to be waiting forever. May I have the courage to love myself exactly as I am. And now in the last few minutes of practice, let's return to focusing on the breath, return to the present moment. Notice awareness, being aware of how the body feels, state of the mind, state of the emotions. Mindfulness isn't about changing anything. It's about observing things, being with things exactly as they are. Becoming aware. Aware of myself, aware of my body. The breath. Little secret. How the breath changes with thoughts and emotions. The breath is a giveaway of what's going on inside. What's my breath like now? What's my breath like now? And now we'll draw our practice to its close. I'll close practice with 3 rings of our bell. So, as the bell finishes ringing, just a reminder that it doesn't mean that practice is over. It means that this dedicated practice is over, and it's time for us to move into the integrated practice that is the rest of our lives. So, thanks for being here. Thank you, everybody. I'll get to the comments here, the chat here shortly. As I was just chatting, and I promise I'll get to the chat shortly. But as I was saying those, there's one other thing I wanted to say, which was that that kind of not wanting to broadcast again, right? Like I saw that show up. And I thought, well, what is that, right? It's this kind of giving up feeling. This like, I don't want to do this again. And I think that really there was not much self-compassion in that. And that was really interesting, because I know one of the symptoms of of not having self-compassion is the lack of resilience to get up and do it again. So I saw, to get back up and to try to do the thing that we failed at previously. And so I thought that was very interesting to see. And I'm not a stranger to depression either. And I could also see the beginning, like kind of those first few signals of depression that would typically show up as well. So I thought this was all really, really interesting information. And I wanted to share it with you because I know that whatever I experience, that's why I share all of this stuff. Because I know that a lot of other people have some of these similar kind of thoughts and feelings that I have. Okay, now I'm going to get into the chat. Christina asks, how do I see the profile? And welcome, Christina. It's really great to have you here and to be a part of this community. Down on the bottom of the screen, I'm not sure how you do live events, but on the bottom of my screen I see a bunch of little bubbles floating of people's profile photos. So I can just click on those and get info. If you're a teacher, I can see that you're a teacher. Barbara asks, what do you mean by this moment? Is the moment of confession to us or something else? It's the moment of, when I was saying to this moment, I mean this moment when I'm doing the broadcast again, and having a confession, exactly. So that was it. As I found my mind was constantly coming back to the moment of being here and broadcasting and telling you, well, here's how I screwed up, and trying to come up with justifications and excuses and things like that. So thanks for asking, Barbara. Yeah, Jean says each of these are learning lessons. Self-compassion is helpful at these times for sure. Marie says, when we are trying to get to sleep, it's hard to stay in the moment. I just want to share as well, mindfulness has helped my sleep immensely. That I've found that it's, if I'm able to stay in the moment, that it's, focus on my breath before I go to sleep makes sleep a lot easier to get to, and a reminder that sleep is a practice of letting go. So if once we've mastered letting go, going to sleep becomes a lot easier. Barbara says, it sounds like you did your best to welcome the guests that arrived. Definitely. And as I was chatting about that, I was thinking about the guest house. So thanks, Barbara, for saying that. Yeah, Woat says, I am here to forgive myself. I hope that this practice was helpful for you to forgive yourself. Dirk says, several of us feared that something happened to you or someone in your family. The message from IT was unforeseen circumstances. Why do we, the site of the story and other stories, first think of something negative in the situation and not, for example, this is just a mistake? I know, it's like, but this is really what happens, isn't it? Is that we just have to, we tend to jump to that most negative thing that we can possibly think of. Because, well, that's what we're designed to do, right? That's what this machine is designed for, is survival, right? And what are we going to do is that the most extreme circumstance is the one that our mind thinks of, so that we have the highest probability of protecting ourselves I often will say, if you think the rustling in the bushes is a rabbit and it's instead a tiger, then you are dead. But if you make the opposite, if you think it's a tiger and it's a rabbit, then you're not. So this is why the mind tends to always think of the most negative thing. It's for our survival. And I'm pleased to say nothing bad has happened to me or any of my family. In fact, I had a health checkup last week, and I mean, except for a little bit, my cholesterol is a little high. Not too bad though, but pretty healthy. So hopefully that is an indicator that I've got quite a few more years left on this planet. Yes, I also wanted to know that. What is VA? I don't know what VA is either. What's that? The third teacher that said what to us? I'm not sure. Virtual assistant. Okay, could be. I don't know. Maybe I'm. I can. It's just silly, right? I mean, I think it's just a scheduling error. Not my first, like I mentioned. I've had plenty of things that I thought I could have done to make sure to keep it from happening and make sure it doesn't happen again. Like I said, I've run over 600 live events, and this is the very first time that I've had an issue like this. So, we're all human. We all make mistakes sometimes. And I mean, of course, just to say that doesn't justify that the mistake was made. I also got one of those nasty gram from Insight Timer, reminding me that my account is going to get locked if I do that again. So that also had some effect on my emotions as well. All right. Anyway, I think this was a really good. I'm happy to kind of shift into this. Shift a little bit more into this. I have a few more little things to share on this topic. I touched on identity today. There's also our explanatory style, which affects our resilience, affects our attitudes as well, and our mental well-being and our ability to pick ourselves back up. Am I going to be defeated? Am I going to be completely defeated? Am I going to stop doing live broadcasts because I made one scheduling error? Is this how my mind works? Is this the smartest thing to do? Are the 70 or so people who showed up for my meditation going to forgive me, right? I mean, it's very interesting as well to see the harshness we may have on ourselves. The consequence of my mistake maybe it seems a lot bigger in my mind than it does in the minds of everyone else, right? Am I the kind of person that easily forgives myself, or am I super hard on myself? Right? But this is something as well we can see. And what are the consequences of being a perfectionist or whatever? So, and Gene says that lots of us have been put on IT timeouts, Insight Timer timeouts. Yeah, I have been too. I forget what I had been put on timeout for. Oh, I know what for. It's for saying the bad words. Not the bad words like you think, but the words that start with Insta, and the words stuff like that. Citing these outside websites. Am I allowed to tell you what book I'm reading or not? So that's something else. I certainly can't tell you about my other activity online. Thanks, Barbara. Thanks everybody for being here. I'll be back a week from yesterday. So I'm heading to Jakarta today, Indonesia, the capital of Indonesia. As with my sons, we're going to have meet. It's their school holiday. It's like October holiday for my kids, so we're heading to Indonesia to meet a friend and who has kids the same age as my kids. So looking forward to going there. Haven't been to Indonesia in a while, so good to go back. And you can. I think it's good to close my session with this as well. You can support me as an Insight Timer teacher by coming to my live events is great. But if you do come to my live events, you find that they're useful for you, please follow me on Insight Timer That helps me get more exposure on this platform. You can as well listen to my free tracks. I have 20 or so free tracks that you can listen to and use them for your meditation. That helps me. If you're a premium member, you can listen to my premium tracks as well. Please join as well. Ryan's Daily Mindfulness Circle, where I put in a little blurb, a summary of today's event, as well as let you know 15 minutes ahead of time when the next event is going to be starting. And last but not least, donate. 100% of your donations go to the teacher to whom you donate. So appreciate your support. It's great to be teaching on Insight Timer. It's been a wonderful platform, and I wish all the best to Chris Plowman and his team on Insight Timer, as well as all the other teachers. So thank you for joining. Thank you, Gene, for your donation. Much appreciated, and wish you all the best. So let's close practice the way that we do, by sending a little bit more loving kindness to ourselves and to everybody who's here, and to all human beings also. May I be happy and peaceful. May everyone watching or listening right now, wherever you are, I wish you all happiness and peace. May all sentient life here on this planet and throughout the universe, may everyone be happy and peaceful. All right, thanks, CC, for your donation. And yeah, Frank's ready. He's ready for his food. See you next time. Bye-bye.